Hello and welcome to You Love You, LLC, the podcast where everything self love will be discussed and recovery. I have the pleasure of having Emma Kay here with me today and share her experience, truth, and hope with everything self love and recovery. And so I'd like to introduce to you Emma Kay. Would you please tell us something or a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Wendell. Thank you so much for asking me to come speak on your podcast today. Um, my name's Emma Kay. I am from the eastern part of New York, but I live in the western part of New York now. Um, I moved here to come to college to be a music teacher and,
Oh,
got that degree and decided not to follow in those footsteps. And of course, addiction got in the way and I kind of lost my way. But after treatment, I decided I really wanted to help people. So I became a certified recovery peer advocate in New York State. And now I work at it's a integrated outpatient clinic for people that struggle with substance abuse. We do all forms of MAT treatment, mental health services, substance abuse services, family services, whole bunch of things. So never thought this
that
is
is
where I would end up, but I very much enjoy it. So
that is
yeah.
awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on to the show, and I know we met through Zoom and several meetings that I've followed you and listened to your shares several times and just know that you have a positive message and has always been a plus to any room that I've been in. So I've developed a few questions and they're just common questions to get us talking. We can veer, go any way, and we'll just do what we do. Talk about recovery, everything self love and recovery. So, one of the first questions that I thought would be interesting to discuss is what has been the most important aspect of your self love journey in maintaining the years of sobriety?
So I think my my most important part of my self-love journey was kind of figuring out what was wrong with me for the longest time. Back when I was drinking and doing drugs and all that kind of stuff, like I didn't really even know who I was anymore. I used to be this really fun-loving girl that really, had a lot of friends, really outgoing, and fast forward quite a few years later, 10 years later almost, I noticed like my anxiety and my depression got so bad. I thought that there was something wrong with me, and I was like, what is wrong with me? And it's like when you think that there's something wrong with you, it's almost like people look at you like, ugh, like what's wrong with her? But in all reality, I'm really not that important, and a lot of people really didn't think that. It's just what goes on in my head, that thought process. So, after kind of threw out the idea of going to therapy, and at first I was like, I don't need therapy. I just want to know what's wrong with me. And, I think that I have this like crazy anxiety disorder. I was having panic attacks, felt like I was gonna faint like half the time because I just was so overwhelmed with all of these like thoughts of hatred and just I just like myself. And I finally went to therapy and, they confirmed that I was massively depressed and had a lot of anxiety and there was still no answers. And so many times my family members, my boyfriend, like everything like that, everyone like that, like they were like, why don't you quit drinking? It would probably help. Alcohol's a depressant. Alcohol increases anxiety. And all these things that you don't think it's going to do until you get so far into your addiction that that's what you turn into an anxious, depressed mess. And I was put on Lexapro, which is like a anxiety depression combination drug,
Hmm.
or a prescription drug, and it didn't work. And I'm like, why isn't this working? Like, is there something wrong with me again? And, you know, the second I quit drinking, which was when I ended up checking myself into rehab, about 6, 7, 8 days into rehab, I felt great. I was like, wow, I don't think there was anything wrong with me. And then I'm like looking back on it and I'm like, that makes sense. Like prescription meds don't work the way they're supposed to when you're drinking whiskey straight from sun up to sundown. And I guess like when I've really began my journey of self-love when I finally realized what was wrong with me. I was just an alcoholic and a drug addict.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
but it was
Amazing.
great to find out that that was what was wrong with me. And, there was something to pinpoint, like, that's what's wrong with you. And now we can move forward. So,
Absolutely. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much. That's amazing how the big book talks about page 62, selfishness and self-centeredness and all of these things. And as you came in, I also came in trying to figure out what's wrong with me. I quit 3 times by myself. Why can't I quit? Why can't I stop? And so I appreciate you sharing that with us. Next question I have is, what strategies or tools have you found most effective in navigating life's challenges while staying sober?
Just strategies and tools that I've used to find the most effective was being able, I found a lot of it through yoga. I picked up yoga in my sobriety, and the tools that I have used is to sit still with myself and to sit down and do nothing with myself and just think positively about myself, which is easier said than done, especially when you're just sitting by yourself. Um, you really just want to be like, oh man, I hate myself. Like, why am I doing this? But what's good about yoga is that it's based off of positive intentions. So you start your practice with a breathing and meditation, and then you set your intention, and it could be a mantra, an intention. It can just be one word like self-love, or I'm going to have a great day today, or I have people around that love me, or I have a great family, or anything like that, anything positive. And during the practice of meditation or yoga or whatever you're doing, you just kind of like keep cycling that through your head, especially when your thoughts go somewhere else, which happens very often in meditation. So, I know that meditation is part of, our 12 steps in AA, and it took me a while to actually like be able to sit and think positively of myself, but then also try to communicate with my higher power. Because when I first got into AA, I didn't know what a higher power was. I was one of those people that had to read We Agnostics like 6 times just to understand, because I had this like really weird conception of like religion and spirituality because I was, born and raised in the Roman Catholic Church. And, I didn't enjoy it and I didn't get anything out of it because I thought that that was where people turn into robots and they chant all the time. And I was like, that's not really what I'm into, And so I really got away from that after I got confirmed. My mom gave me a choice, like, after you get confirmed, you can choose whether or not you want to go to church. And I was like, I'm not going.
I'm out.
So I think like further on in the journey, I think the further away I got from spirituality and just didn't believe in anything, alcohol and drugs became my higher power. And, I believed that I was like superwoman when I was on these things. And, now that I'm sober, like I don't think like that anymore. And, my higher power journey has been interesting, but I'm getting there. I'm only about a year and 11 months in. So I still have time to go. Nothing happens overnight. So that's just a continuing journey. So,
Wait. Let's back up a
yeah.
little bit because you know what I'm getting ready to say. Only, those are words we don't use in the
Oh,
same Zoom that we go to. We do not minimize our recovery. 1 year, 11 months is absolutely fantastic. I appreciate you and applaud you for being here. And
And
that
it's funny because I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people that says, you don't say only in this room. Let me start that over again. I have 1 year and 11 fabulous, sober, positive, happy
there you
months.
go. Yes,
But I'm saying 2 years.
we cancel all negativity immediately. And amazing how your journey is. My journey was a little different because I was born Christian and my mom is a devout Christian. And when I fast forward to like a month or two ago, and I said, well, mom, I don't really adhere to that same belief. I thought she was going to kill me, but she understands now. She's seen my journey, and actually, I'm going to invite her on as well. I did, and she hasn't quite took the bait yet. But anyway, back to the religion portion. I grew up the same thing, and for me, when the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous or anyone says spirituality, I reflected right back to the old religiosity, the old religion that I had, and I thought I had to stay. Actually, I ended up being a deacon because I envied a deacon. And I said, man, I envy you. The preacher stood up and said, Brother Holmes wants to be a deacon. And in my mind, I knew I was drinking too much and I knew I was doing a lot of things, and deacon would fix me. I would be a better husband. I would be a better man. I would stop drinking, all of this stuff. End up drinking with a deacon every weekend for the next 2 or 3 years. But anyway, that's why I told that story. Spirituality today is totally different, as you found with yoga and meditation. So I appreciate that. Uh, let's see. How has your recovery journey influenced your understanding and practice of self love?
Oh man, my sobriety journey is the reason I have self-love today. Going from somebody who drank just to cope with life, after a while, I didn't even know what I was coping with. I just had this like existential dread like all the time. And I had this idea in my head that that everybody hated me. Like if somebody just looked at me the wrong way or even just whispered across the room, I was like, "Oh my God, they're talking about me." And and as you said, like that selfish self-centeredness is like they're talking about me, 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 me. They're talking about me. I'm not
Yes.
that important, like people say like, I think Bob over there is talking to me, talking about me. Like, Bob doesn't go his whole entire day being like, man, I really hate that chick. Like, she's a mess. And so now, like, I'd still, full disclosure here, I'm still on my journey of self-love. You know, I think I will forever be on my journey of self-love because we're forever changing, as I'm 33 right now, but my conception of self-love is going to be different when I'm 40, and it's going to be different when I'm 50 because your body's changing, your mind's changing, your beliefs are changing. Because I had a completely different set of beliefs 2 years ago than I do today.
Gotcha.
And I'm actually working on self-love with my counselor right now because it's something I kind of struggle with from time to time. I kind of go back into that rabbit hole of I'm not good enough. And so I going into the rooms of AA and talking to my counselor and talking to my boyfriend and being open with him, especially in a relationship, like that's really important. And just being able to talk it out. I didn't talk it out 2 years ago. I
Hmm.
would usually start hysterically crying and not get anything out and not make any sense before I could actually like describe how I was feeling. So now I can like calmly, collectively, usually most of the time, explain why I'm feeling this way and try to like turn my thinking around. And the fact that I don't drink anymore fuels me. It just makes me keep going. I was talking about it at work today, um, of why I'm why there's a good chance I'm never going to relapse is because I don't want to go back to that person that I was before because my life was a mess. I was homeless before I lived here. I didn't know that homeless meant couch surfing too. I thought, oh, since I have shelter over my head, I'm not homeless. But no, I didn't have a set place to live. And, that's enough to hate yourself right there. So now that I'm a little bit more stable, I'm more happy. And I go to a lot of AA meetings, and what I love about those meetings is that if you're feeling something, you can just bring it right out and talk about it. And then you have, especially in the Zoom rooms, you have like 50, 60 other people being like, don't think that way, like you're great. And it's like the best form of, it's like the best pep talk you can get,
Yeah,
because everybody in those rooms wants to see you succeed. I can't say the same for the people out there, but everybody in the rooms of AA want to see you succeed. My counselor wants to see me succeed. My boyfriend wants to see me succeed. So does my family. And so it's all about surrounding yourself with people who love you, because if you're not around people that love you, how are you supposed to love yourself?
absolutely.
So I owe my journey of self-love to my sobriety, you know.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. I've had,
it's
go
it's
ahead.
a big part of it.
I've had some people
Nope,
argue
keep
it
going.
down that I've had some people not so much argue me down, but let me know that, oh no, you can't be an alcoholic and have self-love. And I'm like, the 12 steps is self-love. If I start caring for myself and loving for myself, then and only then can I, display self-love. Because if I don't love myself, there's gonna be some pissed off people on the side of me and mad at me, and because I'm gonna want. Everything is for me, about me, as you were saying. Why are they talking about me? What are they saying? That's selfishness and self-centeredness. So I understand wholeheartedly. And that's one of the benefits of being in Alcoholics Anonymous is when I walked into a room, I was like, these people can't help me. This little book, and I'm talking about the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and working the steps and a sponsor. But I didn't think none of that stuff would help me. And somewhere along the way, there's promises, there's prayers, there's different aspects of the steps that I didn't even expect to have. I thought just help me stop drinking or stop doing all of the crazy things like drinking and driving and cussing folks out and getting into it. So I thought all of those things was what I was going to get, and I got a whole lot more in this room. I found
I
myself.
thought the
It
same
took me 59 years.
thing.
Yeah,
I thought the same thing. I'm a full-blown alcoholic. I always will be. But I do have self-love that's growing every day. And I was just like you, the same way. I walked into my first AA meeting, I was really struggling and I was just lost at how to feel better. I didn't know how to feel better. And my boyfriend, who's also an alcoholic, he's also in the program as well. And we're both drinking heavily every single day from sun up to sundown, and he like looks at me and he goes, have you ever been to an AA meeting? And I'm like, no. And he goes, you want to go? And I was at that point where I was just feeling so down that I was just like, anything that might possibly help. And I was just like you. I walked into that room and I was like, how are these people supposed to help me? Like, how is this book supposed to help me? How is that guy that I've never met before supposed to help me? How is prayer supposed to help me? All of this is a load of crap. But I was so wrong. I found everything I needed in this program.
absolutely, absolutely. I could continue on, but I have a few more questions. Either way, working the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, the fourth step, making an inventory. And then when I shared my inventory with my sponsor, he says, man, there's some other A's that could help you because I suffer from all kind of sexual addiction, drug addiction, alcoholism, lying. I would lie, cheat, and everything and things of that nature. But so I ended up finding a lady named Ayana Van Zant and I went to a SWIFT. It was a spiritual warrior training program, a 6 weeks course and I where she just had us praying, meditating, and everything. And when I went to detox, they started us off with meditation, and I would fall asleep. But as I progressed and got back into the rooms, it really has helped me in the long run. Prayer, meditation, contact, and they say prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening to him. So she trained me to, like you said, at the very first moment when you sit down and all these thoughts is rushing in, and she gave us a exercise to just treat them like clouds. When those thoughts come in, just watch them come in and watch them float away, and breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And so that was my journey on prayer and meditation. And then I've always been journaling. I've been journaling all my life. And so that really has helped me through the 12 steps and to discover myself. Like I said, I just found myself at 59. So I appreciate it. Well, we have more questions here. Let me see. And I got to quit. I think I missed one. No, I got you. How has your perspective on living life on life's terms evolved throughout your journey of self love?
Living life on life's terms. It's like it's one of my least favorite topics in AA, actually. And it's
Acceptance
because it's
is the
taken me
key.
so long to like understand.
Acceptance is the
It's
key.
taken me
Page
a long time to
417.
understand what life on life terms is.
Yes.
So it's, first off, to those people who don't know what that is, it's, like this person is being terrible, like your boss at work is just like being absolutely terrible. And you know what? That's life on life's terms. Like you have to accept the way they're being. And also, like they could be going through something else that has nothing to do with you and they're just taking it out on you. And life on life's terms, I had no conception of that 2 years ago. No conception whatsoever, because like it was always like this person was bad to me. This situation was absolutely terrible. Like I could have done this better. This person did this to me. It goes right along with my step 4, my resentments. And, I just have to remember that I'm not the only person going through something. And if somebody is just going to be like that for the rest of their life, I have to accept them for the way that they are. And I have to accept the situation the way that it is. Because on page 417, when you're talking about acceptance, it says something along the lines of, um, everything is the way that it's supposed to be right now. Otherwise, it would be something else. So it's a really hard pill to swallow after a while, at first, because it's like, I just have to accept that all these bad things are happening to me. I have to accept that this person's being a jerk. Like, I don't want to do that, but you're not going to stay sober or get through life or fully recover if you don't do that, because you're just going to get these hang-ups, and you're just going to dwell on it and you're just going to think about it all the time. And as they say in the program, resentments are the number one offender for leading people back to a drink. And so that's why I think step 4 is like one of the top 2 most important steps in the
Yes.
whole entire thing, because if you can't get over your resentments, then how are you going to get through life? You're just going to
I
be an angry, angry person.
I agree wholeheartedly. I have a sponsor
So,
that says I'd rather give a resentment than to get a resentment anytime. And along those same lines, is only thing in life I can change is my attitude and outlook upon life. And the more I try to change someone else, the more I'm pissed off. It's like me drinking rat poison and expecting you to die. So that's what resentments are to alcoholics. So thank you so much. And I think you just answered this one. Can you share a specific moment or experience that tested your self love and sobriety and how you overcame it?
yeah, I do have one actually. And it's actually a really funny story, so buckle up. So, and this was one of the only things that I actually almost drank over. It was about a year into my sobriety, and I almost blew it because I didn't take life on life's terms, and I didn't, so the situation was, and you're gonna laugh so hard. The situation is that somebody robbed a bank down the road here. And so they're trying to find the person that robbed the bank, you see. And so they're looking at the picture of the security footage, and there's a cop here that said, I think that's Emma that lives with Ben. And this woman was like, I'm going to go to her house and go grab her and take her to the station. And actually, my peer, who is my peer, he does the drug court over there, and he overheard her saying that. And he was like, you know, like, what time did this robbery happen? And she goes, around 12 o'clock on this past Wednesday. And he goes, well, you want to know what? And she goes, what? And he goes, she was at art group at the MHA, which is the Mental Health Association, which is where I did my recovery here. I was in a church painting a picture on a canvas while this was all happening. But he had told me what happened because I had no idea. He had told me because he was like, you're gonna find out sooner or later.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, I've been a year sober. I've cleaned up my act. Also, when I was drinking, I was never the kind of person to get in trouble or do anything like that. Like, the only time I ever got in trouble was a DWI. Like, I never did anything like violent or any stealing or anything like that. And then I just went into this like deep hatred for myself. And I'm looking at this picture and I'm like, this girl looks nothing like me, absolutely nothing like me. And, but instead of just saying that and just moving on, I was like, why does everybody doubt me? Why does everybody think I'm just this raging alcoholic that's going to do something wrong at any given moment? And you know what? Since they all think I'm that person, I'm just going to go and be that person. Since,
Wow.
nothing has changed in the last year and people still have this distorted perception of who I am. And, it took quite a few days to get out of that spiral. I was so upset that I almost went and had a drink. I live a block and a half away from the liquor store. I have to see it every time I go to every time I go to the grocery store, every time I go to the dollar
Mm.
store, I have to see the liquor store. And so it's very close and very accessible and I can walk there. But I didn't go. I was like, I've been sober for a year now, and that's unheard of for me, especially after like 12 years of heavy drinking. Um, I didn't want to do that to myself because I didn't want to undo the progress that I've made. I'm never going to be perfect, but I'm always going to try to progress throughout my life and try to grow and try to make myself just a little bit better. Like tomorrow, if I can make myself a little bit better than today, just by maybe just holding the door open for somebody or, you know, not flipping out when something doesn't go my way, then I've done my job for the day. As long as I'm growing every day, then, I'm doing the right thing. And nothing nobody says is going to ruin that for me anymore because I know who I am. You know, I don't care at this point what the other people think of me. And a lot of the people that actually thought that I robbed that bank, because I heard that other people were talking about it too, a lot of those people were the people that I hung out at the bar with every single day that I thought were my friends.
Wow.
And, I quickly learned that they weren't my friends when I got sober because I got sober and I never heard from them again. But they weren't my friends. They just happened to be the same people that were at the bar at the same time as I was, and alcoholics just like me. And, you know, I don't have to listen to what they say because they're not even my friends anymore. They were never my friends in the first place. So what they think doesn't matter. What I think of myself matters. So that's kind of how I got out of that. It did take me a few days. And for the record, I did not rob that bank.
I'm getting ready to say, you sure
So
you not know under
that was
the
definitely,
statute of limitations isn't up yet, so don't just no, I could not. I don't
but
think
yeah.
there's an alcoholic yet that would just rob a bank. Now maybe a crack addict like me, maybe, but not an alcoholic. I've done a little bit of everything, but no, I've worked. I remember the lady asking me Texas Rehabilitation Commission buys your tools and gets you back on your feet once you come into recovery. And she says, "You sure you can't? I can't buy you no tools." I was like, "No, lady, I keep my tools so I go to work so I can smoke." Anyway, I'm really glad that you shared that with us. That's amazing. And as I come through the program and see people come into the rooms, it's a lot of people that come in and say, "Well, I got 30 days and my family should forgive me. They should do all of this stuff. Why are they still thinking that I'm doing all of this bad stuff?" And here you had a year and people are still thinking or assuming. So it's amazing how it takes us years to tear down our reputation and everything. But when I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, see, I got 2.5 days. You ought to be treating me that type attitude. But I appreciate you sharing that for sure.
Right.
All
And
right. Go ahead.
people in every small town are so fixated on you being the way that you were right when they met you too. A lot of small town people don't recognize growth, and they have what they have right now and they're satisfied with that. And I'm not satisfied with that. I'm not satisfied with the person I was before. I'm satisfied with the person I'm gonna be. So,
Yes, yes. And you're evolving and on this
every
journey as I'm on the journey. We're getting there one day at a time. So appreciate it. This one is going to be a little, well, we'll just see. In what ways has your childhood trauma, if any, we can skip it, played a role in your recovery and self love journey?
a huge part actually. Um, and just a disclaimer, if my family sees this, to my sisters, it wasn't your fault. To my mom, it wasn't your fault. It's just
Yes.
the way that I perceived it and the way that I carried this throughout my life. So I grew up in a really great family. My mom's a teacher, my dad's a teacher. My aunt and uncle are both teachers. My sister became a teacher, all music teachers. So, I silly like doing music was the only thing I really knew how to do. I started playing piano when I was in first, second grade and started
Mm,
singing, then started playing the flute. And, my sister played the flute, and that's something that she was very, very good at. Um, like so good that everybody absolutely loved her. And she's an artist. She's an amazing like oil painting and watercolors and multimedia and all that kind of stuff. And so from a very young age, like I'd go out into the community as a kid, and I'd run into a neighbor or something like that, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, hi, how's your sister?" And after a while, I got kind of pissed off, and my answer, instead of answering their question, just turned into, "I'm fine. How are you?" Because nobody ever asked me how I was doing.
yes.
Um, then my other sister, she started really excelling in school. She graduated as the salutatorian. First sister I was talking about, went on to do her degree in flute performance at Ithaca
Wow.
College, like one of the best music schools in the state. And, she was always doing like recitals every year, and we were constantly going to like go watch her perform. And, even as I remember every single day growing up, and she was just walking around the house playing the flute. She practiced nonstop every day. And she deserves to be that good at it because she worked really hard at that. But as a kid, I didn't understand that. So I constantly was trying to live up to the expectations of my older siblings. And, you know, I wanted to be as important as them, and I could just never quite get there. Like I didn't like practicing, so I wasn't as good of a musician as my one sister was. And my grades were okay. Like I was still like an honor graduate and stuff like that, but like they were never as high as my other sisters. So constantly trying to be good enough and to measure up to how good at things other people are. And I think I lost myself way before my addiction started because I don't even think I really knew who I was because I was constantly trying to compare myself to others. And I still catch myself doing that every once in a while. Like, man, like if I didn't, drink my face off for 12 years, like I could be this, like I could be a music teacher just like my classmate from college is if I didn't screw up, and constantly comparing myself to others. And that's one thing they tell me in counseling and what my friends tell me and what my boyfriend tells me and what the program tells me, like never compare yourself to others
Yes.
because you are not that other person. You are you. And so I'm still working on that part. Unfortunately, um me and the flute playing sister, we don't really have much of a relationship anymore. And that's due to my alcoholism and stuff that I've done in the past. I caused her a lot of stress, and we see each other on holidays, that's about it, but we don't really other than that. But it is what it is. I get upset about it every once in a while, but you know you can't you can't hang up on the past. It's the past already happened. There's no way you can change it. The only thing I can change is going forward. Like, how am I going to fix this relationship with my sister if I'm ever going to fix this relationship with my sister? Like, how am I going to be good enough in my own eyes and shape the person that I am and stop comparing myself to other people? Because that's what got me in this mess in the first place, is comparing myself to other people and not knowing who I am. So, childhood trauma kind of had something to do with that. And I've never talked to my mom about that, but, I think she already knows. So,
Wow.
um, but yeah, I'm doing fine.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with us some of the deeper, darkest things. That's what I learned in Alcoholics Anonymous, that I'm an open book now, and it also affects some of my family members. So I have to be careful. And I think my very first, I was trying to do some kind of public speaking, and I shared something about my childhood trauma, and that my first 18 months, another family kept me. And so when I told my mom that, she was like, "No, they didn't." Boy, it was only about 6 weeks, but my brother was 3 years old, and he passed about a month after I was born. And so I thought it was 18 months. I didn't just pull that number out of the sky somewhere. I think one of them told me, but either way, I appreciate you sharing that. And it's funny how our family members don't always see or understand the situation. So excellent, excellent. What advice would you give to others who are struggling with maintaining their sobriety while also practicing self love?
Well, you're not going to stay sober if you have no conception of self-love. And if you get hung up on the past and how much you hate yourself
Hmm,
for that, for, screwing up in the past. Like, yeah, I screwed up in the past, but I've made a pretty good life for myself now. Like, I'm satisfied with the way things are going right now. And, I just talked to another fellow alcoholic that I went to college with, and I told him that same exact thing. I was like, you can't beat yourself up over the past because you're going to drink about it if you keep thinking like that. Um, and another thing that I tell people, this too shall pass. You're
hmm,
not going to feel this way forever. Sure, you feel like this in the moment and you absolutely hate yourself in this moment, but that moment that I was just talking about's already gone.
yes,
I live, we live 1 minute at a time if we have to live, and one
absolutely.
second at a time if we really have to live it that way. And, you can't spend your whole entire life hating yourself. I mean, sure you can, but like you're not going to stay sober that way. You're not going to be happy that way. And you're probably not going to be on this planet for very long that way either. Especially since that downward spiral can lead to deep, dark depression that can lead to other things. And, it's So yeah, that would be my advice to other people is just take it one moment at a time because the moment that I was just talking about's already gone. So it's, it's just to keep moving forward. Keep moving forward in your journey of self-love. Write about it, talk about it, um, be about it, Don't talk about self-love, be about self-love. As I said, I was talking to my counselor about it, and she's like, you should try journaling about self-love. And I said, I don't even know how to journal. I don't know where to start. And she's like, how about a guided journal? Like, let's look on Amazon and look up some guided journals on self-love. And she pulls up her Amazon page and there's all these guided journals about self-love. And I was like, I got that one, I got that one, I have that one, and I have that one. She's like, have you written in any of them? And I'm like, no,
No.
because if you want to take a look at this one, it's empty. I'm still working on it, you
Well,
know. I
I'm
have two
glad you're.
self-love workbooks right here. So I actually did start one. So
I'm getting ready to say, I'm glad you're here because I'm going to be on you every day now from now on. You have to journal, 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 journal. That was what started me and started this channel, You Love You. I was journaling one day, and it looks like I was so tapped in at the time. I was journaling every day. I was praying and meditating. I was going to meetings. I was doing all of this stuff, and it looked like the words on the page came to life. And I wrote the word "you." And as I was going past it a second time, it had the Y and the O looked like a heart and a U. And I was like, you love you. And I kind of laughed like, that's funny. And I kept writing, but it just kept staying on me. And every time I passed it, it just looked like it came to life. So that's how I came up with the channel, You Love You. And further along journaling on a daily basis, I realized that through a lot of coping mechanisms and things that I've done in life, I didn't love myself. I went through the checklist. If you asked me to be a son, I knew what a son was. Check, check, check. If you asked me to be a husband, I had the checklist. I had studied. I knew what it is. I tell y'all all the time, it took me 3 college degrees to get in there. And I was smart enough to know, but I never knew the innermost self-love. And so that's how this channel came about. And that's why it's so important that we continue to spread the love of self-love, the message of self-love, negative self-talk, journaling, all of those things. And if you don't have a guide, what I practice is I sit in front of it and say, well, good morning, window, and see where the pen takes me. Sometimes it's about yesterday, sometimes now early on, the program that I was saying guided us on what was your day going to be like. Holy Spirit, teach me different things of that nature. She gave us 4 points to journal on, but it has evolved in my life to just sit down and say, good morning. This is what I'm expecting. This is what happened yesterday. It's been a good day. I'm positive, I'm negative, whatever. But I do not beat myself up about it. So just right. There's a nerve. Okay, I get to share this with you. There's a nerve that goes from your brain down to your finger. And as long as it's running around in your brain, all these thoughts and things, and it's fiction. You can make it to be anything. You can blow it up. You can, like you said, oh, they're talking about me over there. But the minute I put it on paper, it becomes facts. Then I can do something about it. So that's my encouragement for you to journal, journal,
thank you for
journal. It
that. I
helped
need
me.
it sometimes.
It, journal, journal, there. So, how has the concept of forgiveness, both of oneself and others, been instrumental in your journey of self love and recovery?
Say it's been absolutely instrumental to my recovery. Obviously you're familiar with the 12 steps. 4 and 5, that's your resentments and then your fears and telling somebody about it after. And then you see a lot of those people also on your step 8. And I put myself on my resentments and I put myself
Mm,
on my apologies. And, I resented myself because, it took me 10 years to get a 4-year degree. Um, I, so just like a brief history of like, my alcohol and drug use in like 2 minutes. It's like of college. And then as the years went on, I started hanging out with the townies at the bar after I turned 21. And that's when I got into like Molly and cocaine and drinking even more and then moving on to straight liquor. And, of course, I tried some like magic mushrooms and some acid too, and smoked a lot of pot. And yeah, all that stuff happened, but it doesn't matter what happened. I went to music school because I thought it was expected of me and it was the only thing I was good at. And, that's another reason why it took me 10 years is because I got extremely unmotivated and just didn't want to keep going.
Hmm.
And, I have to forgive myself for that because I'm human. How are you supposed to know what you want to do with your life at 18 years old? It's outrageous. I think the concept of going to college and picking out what you want to be at age 18 is absolutely insane
Yes,
because I knew when I was 18 that I didn't want to do that, but I still went there, and now I'm paying a student loan that I'm not even using the degree for. So forgiveness is one of the most important things I have to do for myself. Forgiveness, it comes from steps 4 and 5 and 8 and 9. Like, I hate myself and now I'm going to forgive myself. I was on my own step 4 and my own step 8 because I have to myself in order to keep going on this journey of self-love, really, and on this journey of sobriety. Like, I have to keep going, and if I hate myself, it's not going to happen. um what's in the past is in the past. Like, what we're striving for is growing in the future. So that is my main goal, is to just grow every day, just as I said before.
absolutely. Yes, the 12 steps helps us along the way, and the promises. The 12 steps says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics who are still suffering and we're still suffering and practice these principles in all our affairs. And so it guarantees me that I'm going to have some kind of spiritual awakening. And it's not the one that I had when I went to church and became a deacon, unfortunately. All right. What does the phrase "you love you" mean to you in the context of your sobriety and self love journey?
You love you. That was a little bit of a hard one because I was kind of trying to understand what it meant. um but my conception of it is that, you know you, meaning me, really, I can make it, I
You
love
love
me, like, you love you. You have to love yourself. Like, not to the grandiosity point where you turn into like an egotistical a-hole. It's,
turned into me. Go ahead.
like, you have to be humble about it. We talk about humility in the steps too. Um, but you still have to love yourself. You can't beat yourself up every day because your mental health is going to go down the toilet. You might pick up again. You might start drinking again. You might start using again. Um, and as I said, I'm still on this journey of self-love. I'm not completely there yet, but I'm working on it, and I'm going to be humble about it. I'm not a narcissist by nature anyway. So I have to love myself just to be satisfied with my life. Because if I'm not satisfied with my life and I'm not satisfied with myself, like, I'm stuck with me for the rest of my life, you know? Like, and that's just the reality of it. I'm stuck with me for the rest of my life. So I just gotta keep going. And, as you said earlier, like, take it as clouds passing by, like, this too shall pass, like a negative feeling comes up and then just kind of let it pass, and don't let it affect your future. You have to love yourself in order to keep going. So that
Absolutely.
is what I got out of You Love You.
Absolutely. And loving yourself, one thing for sure is to put down the hammer and beat yourself up with a feather. Negative self talk will take me down that path. Journaling has helped me discover some of those things that I didn't think I loved about myself. And I can actually put them on paper and I can start maneuvering and figuring out, well, that wasn't that bad. Oh, well, I just did the best I could at that time. Or all the other aspects of self love that comes into a case. I just I appreciate you. Any last words you'd like to share with someone that might be struggling,
No,
not understanding?
I think that I covered just about everything. Just my last words of don't beat yourself up. Keep growing every day. And just don't give up. Don't give up. Don't pick up a drink. You don't have to drink no matter what. We know that, and it's nothing's ever so bad that you have to drink or use over. Nothing. As long as you
Absolutely.
have the coping skills and ways to get around it and get yourself through these things, you'll be just fine.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you showing up. As always, this is You Love You, Everything Self Love podcast. Emma from, I can't even remember your last name, your last initial.
Emma K. Emma
Emma
K
K
from Dunkirk, New York.
from Dunkirk has just blessed us with her presence, and we just thank you so much for sharing your experience, strength, and hope with us. So
Thank you
have
for
a
having
great
me.
day, and thank you.
You too.